Hello, this is going to be a reading of Chapter 9, and I'm calling it a close reading of Chapter 9 of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. This chapter is entitled The Queen of the Field Mice. And I just want to bring to your attention that we're going to be, or you're going to be watching me anyway, take notes as I read. And it's something that strong readers do. And it's just important to remember that reading for school or reading for analysis is different from reading for pleasure. We are looking to extol um, the virtues of the chapter, so to speak. All right, so modeling for you how I do a close reading is what I'm after here. And what I'm hoping that you can pull out of this is um, number one, how to do a close reading. And number two, if we can find that the characters are supporting one another. Right now in our Bridges unit, we are talking about kind of a social emotional learning practice of knowing who our emotional support team is. Who do we go to support ourselves, right? All right, here we go with The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, Chapter 9, The Queen of the Field Mice. We cannot be far from the road of yellow brick now, remarked the Scarecrow, as he stood beside the girl, for we have come nearly as far as the river carried us away. The Tin Woodman was about to reply when he heard a low growl, and turning his head, which worked beautifully on hinges, he saw a strange beast come bounding over the grass toward them. It was indeed a great yellow wildcat, and the Woodman thought it must be chasing something, for its ears were lying close to its head, and its mouth was wide open, showing two rows of ugly teeth, while its red eyes glowed like balls of fire. As it came nearer, the Tin Woodman saw that running before the beast was a little gray field mouse, and although he had no heart, he knew it was wrong for the wild cat to try to kill such a pretty, harmless creature. So here's something where I would take pause. Um, it seems like sort of a two things are at play here. In one sense, the narrator tells us that the Tin Woodman has no heart, but also saying he knew it was wrong. How can that be? How do you, if you don't have a heart, know something is wrong and have a heart for killing such a pretty harmless creature? So that's something I'm going to put onto my notes. So let's see. Although he had no heart, he knew it was wrong. Although he had no heart, he knew it was wrong. You know what? I'm going to make a new slide for citations from the text. Teachers are constantly asking students for direct evidence from the text about things. And I don't know, I always feel like students really resist this part, and I've never been sure why exactly. Maybe because it does take some stamina and some work. So let's see, I better do this. There we go. And I already forgot what I was trying to do here. Let's see. Although he had no heart. So quotation marks. And something that we do when we come in the middle of a line is we put an ellipsis in there just to state that we are leaving part of a sentence out. Although he had no heart, he knew it was wrong. Or the wildcat to try to kill. Actually, I think I'm just going to leave, although he had no heart, he knew it was wrong. Because that's really the essence of what I'm trying to point out here, is that the Tin Woodman must have a heart if he knows that something is wrong. Okay, so we do quotation marks, and then we do parentheses, the author's name, comma, and the page number, and then a period goes outside the parentheses. That's the MLA correct way to do in-text citations. And then, at some point I would probably go back and add my own thoughts to this, kind of what I was saying to you out loud, that how can somebody have no heart but still know something's wrong? That kind of shows us that, maybe he really does have a heart. All right, going back to the reading. So the woodman raised his axe, and as the wildcat ran by, he gave it a quick blow that cut the beast's head clean off from its body. Holy smokes. And it rolled over at his feet in two pieces. The field mouse, now that it was freed from its enemy, stopped short, and coming slowly up to the woodman, it said in a squeaky little voice, "Oh, thank you. Thank you ever so much for saving my life." "Don't speak of it, I beg of you," replied the woodman. "I have no heart, so I am careful to help all those who may need a friend, even if it happens to be only a mouse." And again, our brain should be saying, wait a minute, you saying you have no heart, but you're careful to help people. It takes heart to be able to help people. "Only a mouse!" cried the little animal indignantly. "Why, I am a queen, the queen of all the field mice." Anybody that doesn't know what indignantly means would want to look that up. Don't just, go past words that you're unsure of. Look them up. That's what good readers do. So indignantly, I'm going to look that up. My favorite place to look up words is vocabulary.com. Indignantly. If your mother accuses you of stealing her necklace and pawning it, you'll answer her indignantly that you did no such thing. Indignantly is the adverb form of the adjective indignant. If you are indignant about something, you are offended and mad because someone did something unfair. You might indignantly demand that you are paid equally to your coworker who does the same job. If you get an F on a paper you worked hard on and you know is good, you might indignantly demand that your teacher explains the poor grade. So I'm going to put on my notes here that I looked up the word indignant. I don't know, maybe I'll just put this down here. Words that I learned. And of course the font is something strange that I can't see. All right. Back to my story. Let's read that line with indignantly and see if it makes more sense now too. "Only a mouse!" cried the little animal indignantly. "Why, I am queen of all the field mice." So we can see now why the mouse would be indignant about this. Offended, right? Only a mouse. I'm offended by that. "Oh, indeed," said the woodman, making a bow. "Therefore you have done a great deed as well as a brave one in saving my life," added the queen. At that moment, several mice were seen running up as fast as their little legs could carry them, and when they saw their queen, they exclaimed, "Oh, your majesty, we thought you would be killed. How did you manage to escape the great wildcat?" And they all bowed so low to the little queen that they almost stood on their heads. "This funny tin man," she answered, "killed the wildcat and saved my life, so hereafter you must all serve him and obey his slightest wish." "We will!" cried all the mice in a shrill chorus. And then they scampered in all directions, for Toto had awakened from his sleep, and seeing all these mice around him, he gave one bark of delight and jumped right into the middle of the group. Toto had always loved to chase mice when he lived in Kansas, and he saw no harm in it. It just made me think of my little chihuahua doing something like that. Probably doesn't mean to be, a menace, but, doesn't realize that mice might be afraid of a dog coming after them. But the Tin Woodman caught the dog in his arms and held him tight while he called to the mice, come back, Toto shall not hurt you." At this, the queen of the mice stuck her head out from a clump of grass and asked in a timid voice, "Are you sure he will not bite us?" "I will not let him," said the woodman, "so do not be afraid," again showing his kindness and his heart. One by one, the mice came creeping back, and Toto did not bark again, although he tried to get out of the woodman's arms, and would have bitten him had he not known very well he was made of tin. Finally, one of the biggest mice spoke. Is there anything we can do, it asked, to repay you for saving the life of our queen? Nothing that I know of, answered the woodman, but the scarecrow, who had been trying to think, but could not because his head was stuffed with straw, said quickly, Oh, yes, you can save our friend the Cowardly Lion, who was asleep in the poppy bed. A lion? Cried the little queen. Why, he would eat us all up. Oh, no, declared the scarecrow. This lion is a coward. Really? Asked the mouse. He says so himself, answered the scarecrow, and he would never hurt anyone who was our friend. If you will help us save him, I promise that he shall treat you all with kindness. Very well, said the queen. We will trust you, but what shall we do? Are there many of these mice which call you queen that are willing to obey you? Oh, yes, thousands. Then send for them all to come here as soon as possible, and let each one bring a long piece of string. So, as a reader here, I'm thinking, long piece of string, what are they going to do with that? Questioning your text as you read, again, another thing strong readers do. And earlier, when I said it reminds me of my Chihuahua, that's something strong readers do too. It's called text to life connections or text to self connections. Like, oh, that reminds me of this in my life. The queen turned to the mice that attended her and told them to go at once and get all her people. As soon as they heard her orders, they ran away in every direction as fast as possible. And here we have a little illustration with this cute little mouse up here in the corner. And then Dorothy sitting on the ground, all these little mice attending, and the Tin Woodman doffing his cap, which is a funnel, which I think is kind of cute. And then the scarecrow in the back there. And then the quote here says, "Permit me to introduce to you Her Majesty the Queen." Now, said the scarecrow to the Tin Woodman, you must go to those trees by the riverside and make a truck that will carry the lion. So the woodman went at once to the trees and began to work, and he soon made a truck out of the limbs of trees. Now, truck in this case, I'm picturing like a tow truck or a dump truck or a pickup truck, but I don't think that's what they mean here. So that would be something that I'm kind of like puzzled about in my brain right now. And I can make a written note about it, but for now I'm just going to make a mental note about it. Like, okay, what do they mean about truck here? And maybe it's just an old-fashioned term. And soon he made a truck out of the limbs of the trees from which he chopped away all the leaves and branches. He fastened it together with wooden pegs and made the four wheels out of short pieces of a big tree trunk. So fast and so well did he work that by the time the mice began to arrive, the truck was all ready for them. I'm going to see if I Google, is there a form of the word truck that means wagon? Good old AI here. Yes, truck is a synonym for wagon. A four-wheeled vehicle that can be pulled or have its own motor. So it's not just one that's like can drive by itself. It can also be something that's pulled. Synonyms could be, oh wait, they're saying that's wagon here. Okay, I'm kind of confused. Here we go. Truck can also refer to a frame carrying two or more pairs of wheels and usually springs or brakes attached under it. Okay. So yeah, it must be kind of an old-fashioned use of the word truck. So fast and so well did he work that by the time the mice began to arrive, the truck was all ready for them. They came from all directions, and there were thousands of them, the mice. Big mice and little mice and middle-sized mice, and each one brought a piece of string in his mouth. It was about this time that Dorothy woke from her long sleep and opened her eyes. She was greatly astonished to find herself lying upon the grass with thousands of mice standing around and looking at her timidly. But the scarecrow told her about everything, and turning to the dignified little mouse, he said, "Permit me to introduce you to you, Her Majesty the Queen." So he's referring to Dorothy as the Queen. Dorothy nodded gravely, and the Queen made a courtesy. I'm sorry. I wonder if that means curtsy. Curtsy, like a bow? after which she became quite friendly with the little girl. The Scarecrow and the Woodman now began to fasten the mice to the truck. Oh, they're going to use them to pull this wagon. That's kind of funny. Using the strings they had brought. That's what the long string was for. Okay. One end of a string was tied around the neck of each mouse and the other to the truck. Of course, the truck was 1,000 times bigger than any of the mice who were to draw it. But when all the mice had been harnessed, they were able to pull it quite easily. Ah, I'm seeing some symbolism. I'm seeing a metaphor forming before my eyes. If you were to read deeply for meaning here, you might discover that, hey, when a job or a problem or an obstacle seems too big for just me, all alone, little old me, I can use my support system because many hands make light work. So that could be a literal task that I'm doing, but it could also be a problem I'm having, an emotional issue, even, right? That I can use or call upon my friends and family to help me with this burden, to help me pull along this wagon, if you will, this burden. I'm hoping that you get to see that here. So I'm going to put that in my notes. And I'm trying to think what I want to call it. Do I want to call it a metaphor? I don't know. Maybe I don't have to worry about that for now. Maybe I'll just record the citation for now and come back to that. Of course, the truck was 1,000 times bigger than any of the mice who were to draw it. Cool. Semicolon. But when all the mice had been harnessed, so a lot of students probably think this is a lot of work. I don't know. I don't think it's that big a deal to type out, and make these citations. Maybe it's just because I've been doing it for so many years. They were able to pull it quite easily. No period there. Parentheses. Is the author. 104 is the page number, and period on the outside. And then I'm going to say in different font here. I see symbolism, metaphor. I haven't decided what I want to call this yet. Just, making note of it for now. Even the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman could sit on it, and were drawn swiftly by their queer little horses to the place where the lion lay asleep. Now, we use the word queer a lot differently in our current vernacular, but back then it just meant like strange little horses. These mice being queer little horses is a metaphor as well, because obviously they're not horses, they're mice, but they're being used, sort of as a workhorse, if you will. So that's some figurative language at play there that, and were drawn swiftly by their queer little horses to the place where the lion lay asleep. So there's a metaphor there. After a great deal of hard work, for the lion was heavy, they managed to get him up on the truck. Then, oh, so cute seeing the lion on this little, now we get to see a visual of this, what they're calling a truck, and we would probably call a wagon. The queen hurriedly gave her people the order to start, for she feared if the mice stayed among the poppies too long, they would also fall asleep. Oh, here those poppies are coming in this chapter as well. If we remember from chapter 8, those poppies made everybody fall asleep, right? At first, the little creatures, many though they were, could hardly stir the heavily loaded truck, but the Woodman and the Scarecrow both pushed from behind, and they got along better. Soon they rolled the lion out of the poppy bed to the green fields, where he could breathe the sweet fresh air again instead of the poisonous scent of the flowers. Ooh, the poisonous scent of the flowers. If we remember back, I gave you a lesson about how poppies and their opium, and kind of that relationship. Dorothy came to meet them and thanked the little mice warmly for saving her companion from death. She had grown so fond of the big lion, she was glad he had been rescued. Then the mice were unharnessed from the truck and scampered away through the grass to their homes. The queen of the mice was the last to leave. "If you ever need us again," she said, "come out into the field and call, and we shall hear you and come to your assistance. Goodbye." "Good boy," they all answered, and away the queen ran, while Dorothy held Toto tightly, lest he should run after her and frighten her. So there's Toto being a dog, as dogs will do. They want to chase those mice, right? And they didn't want this poor queen mouse to be frightened by Toto. After this, they sat down beside the lion until he should awaken, and the scarecrow brought Dorothy some fruit from a tree nearby, which she ate for her dinner. There's the scarecrow, making sure Dorothy always has food. Again, Scarecrow is definitely in Dorothy's support system in this story. Is he not? I mean, they all support one another, but I always see Scarecrow bringing Dorothy her fruit and her nuts and whatever, to sustain her. And I just love that about him. All right, and then chapter 10 is next.